You are listening to Additional Crew Film Review with Nick Meyer and Andrew Gomez. These spoiler-heavy reviews are meant for entertainment purposes only. Please do not attempt anything said on this show at home. Now sit back, relax, and listen to these two dinguses talk about a movie. Enjoy! Son, on the trail, there's a righteous tale of a small man with mountains of pride. He gleaned the dark secrets of Additional Crew, a podcast still adored far and wide. Hey, Andrew, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, Nick? Not bad. Hello, listeners.
So, we are Additional Crew, as you may have gleaned from the introduction. We bring to you movie reviews, and today we've got a film from 2022, or 2023, or 2024, depending on who you ask, Hundreds of Beavers. We will get into that shortly. Past that, so I am Nick, this is Andrew, and we have to first off bring up this whole entire Gene Hackman thing that's going on. So I want to start by saying the Gene Hackman thing that's going on is that Gene Hackman died, and
not only him, his family, right?
His wife and one of his dogs.
That's crazy.
It is insane. And Gene Hackman is a legend of film, a legend. I don't think there's any way you can get around saying he's not a legend of film. So he was 95 years old.
Oh, I mean, not a bad age to go, but just an unusual way to go.
Yeah, and if you
not a bad age, I should say.
Yeah, 95 is it's ripe and old. It's like I think when everyone heard he died, people were first like, "Yeah, rest in peace." But you're 95.
Age.
Unfortunately, it seems like there was foul play involved.
That's
so at first, everyone was like, "It's a carbon monoxide poisoning," because someone said that. I don't know who said it. But then later, the police were like, "Actually, there wasn't."
Okay.
And
this is gonna be a Netflix story soon enough.
It'll be on a true crime podcast somewhere. If you really want to learn about it, listen to the true crime podcast because I'm sure it will be out and I'm sure it'll be interesting. But rest in peace, Gene Hackman.
Sure. Yes. We don't know. He was in.
Yeah. He was in so many movies. It's kind of like hard not to have a few favorites. I love the Royal Tenenbaums. I love the Replacements.
Yeah, fantastic. I forgot that he was in it.
He was royal.
He's not memorable, but like I haven't thought about the Royal Tenenbaums honestly since you brought it up. Like it's not a film I constantly think about. But
but he had a phenomenal role in it. Really helped make the movie. He had to be like the guy everyone loves, but you can understand how his family hates him. That's like it's a tough needle to thread, and he did pretty well.
Yeah, it's a fun family dynamic in that film for sure.
Mm-hmm. He was in The Replacements. That's a movie about replacement football players. Yeah. Was it Keanu? I think it was either Keanu or that other guy who kind of looks like Keanu. Let's see. We're looking up Replacements right this second, and it is Keanu. It's Shane Falco. Yeah, and then Gene Hackman is Jimmy McGinty. I just remember for some reason, I watched that movie when I was really young, and I remember the field goal kicker who was like, ole, 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 every time he'd kick a field goal.
Dude, he was in Ants?
Yeah, that's the next movie. As I would say, I have a soft spot for Ants. He played the Mandible, I think is the name of the character.
Yeah, I liked Ants, but I also like Bugs Life. I know they're oftenly referred to each other, like commonly compared to each other. But I like Ants more, I think, sometimes.
I was gonna say I think Ants the film aged better, but it's harder to talk about because of all the Woody.
Oh yeah, Woody Allen.
Yeah, the Woody Allen stuff that's come out. It's like that's not great. But Ants, because I've watched Bugs Life with my kids, and I'll be honest, the animation aged very poorly, and the Seven Samurai storyline,
kind of like what's going on in this movie that we're gonna watch. Different animation, man. Is this considered animation in Hundreds of Beavers?
It's not a full animated movie, but there's definitely animation in it. Yeah. I think calling it animation is just fine.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you have something else to say about Bugs Life?
Not really. Just the Ants is, I think, at this point, in my opinion, a better movie. But Bugs Life had more of a story behind it because it stole Seven Samurai's story. And if you haven't watched Seven Samurai, you should. Great film.
I'm not saying that.
It's like 3.5 hours long, but it is 3.5 hours that are worthwhile It's a very old movie.
I don't know many Gene Hackman films. I haven't seen a whole lot from him, but one that, as I'm looking through his filmography, The Mexican, I watched. I don't remember a whole lot. I actually don't even remember him in it, but I remember watching The Mexican. Thought that was an interesting film. And one thing that stands out more about Gene Hackman is something that he's not even a part of, but of South Park kind of making fun of the whole Superman uh, dynamic.
Yeah.
What was going on during that time? I'll let you check
Superman
out
is
the
Lex
episode.
Luthor.
Yeah, I forget which episode, but yeah, it was controversial for the time for sure, and it's still kind of controversial for the time. The topics they go about in that South Park episode, but the one thing that sticks out specifically is Gene Hackman is kind of seen as the foe again, and he's commonly referred to as Hackman. And it's just really funny. But yeah, rest in peace to Gene Hackman, dude.
Yeah, rest in peace to Gene Hackman. Shame it ended the way it did. I hope his family's okay, etc. I mean, I'm not going to get into it. You know what I mean. Okay. With that said, I'm going to jump into the annual music. I'm going to call it a music spotlight. I said annual. I mean podcast. Every podcast music spotlight. We're getting there. So the album I'm bringing up today is by a group called the Varmduscher, which is a German word. They're not a German band. I believe they're Brits. And the album is called Too Cold to Hold. This came out late 2024. So this is one of those albums that did not make it on my top 10 list of 2024 when we did that a few pods ago. But I kind of regret that because I've fallen in love with this album pretty hard. It actually has what might be, in my now opinion, my favorite song of 2024 in general on it.
Oh, dang. What is that?
It is the song Too Cold to Hold. And this is an interesting album. So as most of these albums I talk about, this is considered a post-punk album, but I don't know that that's like a fair genre delineation. Like it's definitely got post-punk in it, but it's also got like hip hop and it's also got jazz and it's also got a little bit of like funk going on.
Dang.
They apparently they apparently take like a South African drumming style and they use it throughout, and it like really opens up this like airy space for them to operate in.
Wow.
And as opposed to like getting lost in that mix, they managed to keep it driving and interesting in between.
Okay.
I read a review on this album, and so this will give you an idea immediately. And I don't hear this, but this is what the review said. It said this is like brash textures over catchy hooks. And I don't really the textures in this, I don't really consider them that brash myself, but it turns out I think that's just kind of like the alley that I enjoy listening to. So just get ready for that. But this album, from track 2, Fashion Week, all the way through track 10, Too Cold to Hold, in my opinion, is just fantastic.
Okay.
The first track and the last track are kind of like they're lost. Like I wouldn't. An introduction by Irvine Welsh is some guy talking about doing DMT to some cool music in the background. But like, who cares? It's not that interesting if you don't care about DMT.
Yeah.
And the last song, Weeds in Your Garden, is more of like a textural outro.
Okay.
Think like some of the stuff Blur would do with their songs at the end. It would be like I think of the album 13, right? They have this song at the very end that's just very simple, just a little bit of instruments, and it's just kind of continue on a motif from the rest of the songs to be like, here you go, fill yourself out.
We're talking Opticon 1?
I should know the name of this, but I listened to it so much on an album, I don't know the name of it.
Are you referring to the last song on the whole 13 album?
I believe the last song is No Distance Left to Run, right?
No, it ends with Opticon 1, which it sounds like a Western film. Like
I think so. Then
into the sunset type.
I think it is then, because I couldn't remember if they end it with that one or if it segued into No Distance Left to Run, but it's one of those two.
Yeah, No Distance Left to Run is a sad way to end the album. Maybe that's why they chose to end it with Opticon 1.
Yeah. Side note, not this album, but No Distance Left to Run is probably one of my favorite sad songs of all time.
Dude,
love that song.
Sad.
But yeah, so we can talk about this. So the lyrics in this album are not very like, they're not very positive. As some of this seems to be like in the track Too Cold to Hold, it sounds like someone's ranting about just like life. Like I think like one of the first lyrics in it is can't pay for heat, The motherfuckers are fucking with my paycheck.
Motherfucker.
You know, and it works in in this. The rant just feels so good in this.
Is it like spoken word?
No, not really. Like
Is it
I
just
think you,
rapping?
not even fully. It's like right in between, right? So it's not
Right.
quite spoken word. It's not quite rapping, and it's not quite singing, but it works.
It's very post-punk style of delivering a lyric.
Well, it almost reminded me of something like a James Brown breakdown where he's just yelling.
Oh man, he's throwing more
You know,
stuff
he's just
out.
like,
I made that. Oh shit.
uh,
James Brown breakdowns.
but no, they have a lot of hip hop influence in these albums actually, and they're pretty cool. So like, if you check out the song "Immaculate Deception," right, it's this pretty cool post punk song, and then like during the last like third of it, it turns into a hip hop song at the end.
Oh man,
And for me, it fucking works.
You gotta Discord some of these songs.
Yeah,
Discord that one song you like. Discord that one that said, fucking with the motherfucker or whatever you said.
mm-hmm.
Paycheck.
Motherfuckers fucking with my paycheck. That's actually what
Yeah.
it is. But the whole album, I really love it. Starting with Fashion Week, like they hit some pretty intense stuff. But it's also well done, and I don't think that there's another group out there that sounds like this. So it's like almost like a noir sound with the post punk trappings, and yet it's all catchy. I just love this album, so I just wanted to bring it up again. Like anyone who hasn't heard this or this sounds interesting to you, check it out. The music video for the song "Staying Alive" is very entertaining, and the song itself is good. It's not one of my favorites on the album, but it is a good song. And if you want just like a quick one offer from these guys that will make you either laugh or really, really enjoy it, I'm trying to find it. They did a song with Kool Keith.
Never heard of them, but I know you like these textures, man. So
yeah, well, and
anybody who's a fan of textures, go check this out.
Yeah, and Kool Keith's a hip hop artist, and it's called Burner.
Like
The song, and that's not from this album. That song is from their album Tainted Lunch, but the song's fucking funny. So like
Tainted Lunch, like Tainted Love,
like that, and the album cover almost looks like it almost looks like a Supertramp like reference. So
I like Supertramp.
A lot of things going on. I suggest people check it out because like it's not a very listened to album, but I think that's a mistake. I think people would really like it if they gave it a shot. So the group's called Varmduscher, and it's Warmduscher. It means wimp in German slang.
Yeah, good thing you spelled that out because I was thinking like totally different spelling on that. I'm not even going to try to explain.
Yeah, album's called Too Cold to Hold. It's got one of the coolest album covers from last year, in my opinion. And then just the whole album is phenomenal. I've listened to it many times. And with that said, we can just kind of segue on. You did talk about the Weeknd last time, and I hear that you've been stewing, thinking, sitting. What you got with what you thinking about?
Yeah, I've had more time to sit with the Weeknd and Hurry Up Tomorrow. And man, this album is worth listening to front to back. It is definitely a long album at an hour and a half, but I think you get the most experience from doing that. So if you ever had the time to just listen to an album from front to back, give this one a try. Again, as I sit with the album more and more, I find new enjoyment, new songs to enjoy. One thing that I didn't really speak on last time that I noticed this time around, I haven't listened to the album like so freshly, was the transition from Baptized in Fear into Open Hearts. It sounds like the old Weeknd blending into the new Weeknd sound. Like for anybody who listened to the original trilogy of House of Balloons, Thursday, and the other one I can't think of at the moment, and that would be Baptized in Fear, and Open Hearts would be like the trilogy of After Hours, Dawn FM, and today's Hurry Up Tomorrow. So fantastic listen. I'm starting to feel like a high 8 on this after giving it so much more time because I didn't want to give the score last time because I didn't know what I really how to word the experience I was having with the album because it was so new. I didn't want to like preemptively say an arbitrary number and uh, not fully be 100% with that number. But right now I feel pretty close to 100%. I'm feeling like like an 8 on this album. Like you can see he's crafted a cinematic universe in an album, and it shows that he's prepared for that leap into acting, which is cool because um, he has acted before, but he acted as himself in Uncut Gems, and um, with all this hip hop R&B drama that's happening with Drake and The Weeknd, it's not as you know and it's not as high of news as compared to Drake and Kendrick, but Drake also has kind of like a feud with The Weeknd. I heard, from what I hear. I'm not sure where they're at now, but it would be crazy to see The Weeknd in his feature film be more like a better actor than Drake, if that's possible.
Having a feud with Drake is like a mark of pride right now, right?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like everyone's just trying to take shots at him. So, I listened to his new album, Drake's, and there's some things that are very Drake worthy, but I don't know. It's not nothing new than like what I have already heard from Drake. So like he's just doing Drake stuff. Like there's not a whole lot of like I don't know change in his sound. So that being said, I don't really care. I don't really fall in either camp. I just know I like the Weeknd's new album. So
That's fair. That's fair. That's totally fair. Yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I don't want to start beef with any of them right now. So
yeah, I wouldn't want to start beef with any of them either. It sounds stressful.
hey, so I saw something about The Weeknd.
Yeah.
Um, and this is something that I personally really appreciated. He wears a lot of Raiders gear.
The Weeknd?
Yeah.
Hey, showing love to the Bay. Well, once.
I
He lives
there's
Vegas, so maybe that's why.
he posts a lot of Raiders gear. I would tell you the context of these pictures, but I don't fucking know it. One of them looks like an album cover that I've seen, but if I told you what it was, I would be lying to you. So I'm not gonna do that. But if you look up Weeknd Raiders, there's a Reddit thread full of all the times he wore Raiders gear, and
that's funny.
he's I'm more of a fan immediately because the only people who like the Raiders are the smart people.
Quickly, again with The Weeknd, it's crazy that I think this is the first time Lana Del Rey, and him have collaborated. No, they did another song together called Star Girl off of the Star Boy album. I'm remembering that now. But this is a nice return from Lana on the song The Abyss. It was a good listen. And I think right now one of my favorite songs to listen to is Red Terror. It's just man. Daniel Lopatin, famous for being part of Only Tricks Point Never and other side projects. He kind of is the reason that what's that genre that takes old samples and just like flips them on their head. It's not Underphonics. It's Cloud, not Cloud Wave. Oh my gosh, who is It's not synthwave. You know Echo, not Echo 2K, but wow, what's that style of?
I'm not very versed on the electronic music genre names. I might know a lot of the other music like electronic. I'm not good with that.
But he has production on The Weeknd's albums as of late. Like I think he started working with them back during After Hours, and like he's really elevated the Weeknd sound. Like them working together is honestly quite amazing. So that's all I gotta say. Go check out Hurry Up Tomorrow. Try to listen to it all the way front to back, but if you can't, check out The Abyss, check out Open Hearts. There's just some really fun songs. And again, this is the Weeknd finally being the Weeknd, and doing his you know curtains call, bow out. Like I think this is his final hurrah as the Weeknd, and I think he's ready to move on as April Tesfaye. And from that, I'm ready to move on to the next topic too.
All right, so now we're going to talk about Abel Tesfaye's future as a Raiders fan. No. Okay, so I have another book review. I've been blowing through these things lately. This one is The Last Days of Jack Sparks. It's by Jason Arnopp. It was released in 2016. It is, once again, it's considered like a mystery horror novel. It's not really horror. It's written in a pretty interesting fashion. It's written as like an online journalist's perspective of trying to find the supernatural, and along the way, like, things start happening. And this journalist is what I could only write as like Russell. I think it's Russell Brand. That
Russell Brand.
Yeah, the British dude, right?
Oh shit! Are you ready to talk about Russell Brand?
Yeah, Russell Brand. But like, okay, but hold on, because I'm talking about Russell Brand as like you would have known him when he was doing Mr. Deeds and shit, not as whatever's happening now.
Oh. Yeah.
So reverse time 15 years. That Russell Brand writing.
Get him to the Greek Russell Brand.
Yeah, exactly. So like you strip all the 2020 and on stuff that's been going on with everybody. Okay. Russell Brand is just like a cocky British dude writing about supernatural stuff, and like going into it is like the idea of he's completely an atheist and he won't listen to anything else, and he's looking for evidence of something else from other people, and he finds it, but he still is in denial. And it's written in this kind of like vaguely humorous, but what really happens is you can feel like the character change through this, because as it's written in his perspective through what he filters onto the readers of it, it starts vaguely changing over time. And I'm doing a kind of a bad job to explain it because I don't want to spoil too much. Because what I would say is that this is a very interesting book, and what it has is that it's got 3 very distinct portions of it, and each one helps the story along. And it does something, and by the end, everything makes complete sense, and it's all packaged in a nice little package. And it's also kind of like a shocking ending. So what I'm getting at is that I think that the story is very well contained. I think they did a really good job thinking through and coming up with it, and then coming up with kind of this like unreliable narrator's point of view. And they made it interesting. So they took this idea of like someone who is searching for supernatural. They go to an exorcism, they go to a combat seance, and then they go to a astral projection time. And these could all be kind of boring things. They made them more interesting and more entertaining, and they made a character that you wouldn't normally find in this one, who's not always rational but always thinks they're rational. And you're given the understandings and the justifications they tell themselves to believe it's always rational, so you can see how these things would happen. And just for that kind of like package of it, it's a very unique book. So I enjoyed it a lot. Again, it was one that I can just get through, because there are some books where I hit them and like, let's talk about. I tried listening to Dune, right? And Dune is not a book that you just listen to, because there's so much created language for that book, and it's so thick and it's so verbose, and if you miss something, it's like, what the fuck is going on here? These books that I've been talking about, the reason I'm able to go through them so quick, because they're not this. They're books that like you can consume as almost like you're like watching a TV series in the background.
Yeah.
For that, I would say this book does a very good job, and it's got the added benefit of having a little bit of. There's a website, jacksparks.co.uk, that is like a real world spoof of this. That's actually very entertaining and very interesting. I appreciate what they did here. I'm also giving this in my arbitrary books review scale an 8 out of 10.
Oh wow! And this has Russell Brand in it?
No, it's just the character reminds me a lot of Russell Brand, Like
okay.
as a
You had me
cocky
lost for a second.
as a cocky British dude. You know what I mean? Not like as a again
Sure.
whatever. I don't even know what to fucking call him now because he's changed what his like he's changed what he does like 6 different times.
Okay.
Yeah. So 8 out of 10. Check out The Last Days of Jack Sparks. It's a very interesting book. It's once again a horror book that's not going to like change your world, but if you're looking for something that won't change your world and provides you a little bit of escape right now, I wouldn't blame you. With that said, let's move on to some movie reviews. Andrew, kick us off.
Oh yeah, I saw the new Captain America: Brave New World, Red Hulk edition.
How brave?
It was very brave. You know, it was pretty brave of Harrison Ford to get out of bed and do this film. Get that check. Get that Marvel money, dude. You deserve it.
I'll rant about this when you're done. I'm going to give you your moment with it.
I don't have a whole lot to say. At least I'll try to keep it short. Directed by Julius Ona. Never heard of him, but cool. Has hella screenwriters.
What were they all doing with their time?
They were just, adding shit to the movie. From what I heard, it took forever and there was hella reshoots. You could tell if there wasn't reshoots, you could tell like the screen always looked blurry because it looked like green screen and like post editing, whatever you call that.
Post production.
Yeah. And there's this moment where Captain America, Anthony Mackie's character, does a monologue, and that shot just looks like shit. Like, good. Wow. That movie. The movie's, I guess, in some ways entertaining enough to get through, but it's just more Marvel slop. And, it just, I could compare this to junk food. Marvel is now just junk food, just empty calorie storyline with enough action just to keep you entertained, to be happy, and like not even think about, oh, you just kind of watched a nothing burger. And yeah, I don't think it's worth your time, but do what you will with it. Check it out if you want to stay in tune with the Marvel universe. But
that's the fucked up thing, though, right? Like, if you want to watch the Marvel universe, you have to watch all of them, right? Because otherwise,
exactly. And it's just like, what? No, dude, this is an assignment now, just to keep track of Marvel.
I'm not going to provide a great juxtaposition for you here because I've been off a superhero movie since they fucked up Daredevil in like 2006.
With Ben Affleck?
Yeah, with Ben Affleck. Daredevil was the only. Okay,
so there's like show. That's not bad.
There's 3. The TV show's not bad, but okay, hold on. There's like 3 different comic series
going outside of my house right now. I think it's the cat, dude. This cat has been waking me up in the morning. Oh man. Yeah, hold on. I got that. This cat is.
Yeah, you can deal with it. I'm gonna rant for a second. I'm gonna rant for a second. So there are 3 comic book series that I had as a kid growing up. It was fucking Eclipso, it was fucking Daredevil, and it was fucking Alien versus Predator. Okay, so Eclipso, apparently it's just a garbage comic. I didn't know that I was a kid. It's fine, whatever. Move on. I liked it a lot. Alien versus Predator. It has 2 movies, I think, maybe 3. I didn't see the 3rd one if it was there, and they were really bad. Can't figure that out. And then you have Daredevil, which was it's really bad. Doesn't do justification for how terrible the Daredevil movie was. So it was like you got Ben Affleck, you got Colin Farrell, you got Jennifer Garner, and they just made the most asinine slop of all time. I think the playground fight scene in Daredevil has to be in like the top 3 most ridiculous and stupid scenes in film history. It's
worse than the Catwoman basketball scene.
I mean, it's like it depends on your emotional connection, but it's not better.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about because that is absolute garbage.
It is, and the Catwoman basketball scene is really bad. Like that does give me pause because that's a really stupid scene. But the thing about it is this Daredevil playground scene
is just as bad.
It's just as bad. I couldn't believe what they did to my man. Like they have this TV series now. That is pretty good. I did watch that because Daredevil, but after that version of Daredevil, I stopped. I just I can't watch these movies.
Question.
Yeah.
Do you think Daredevil, if he lived today as a real person, would enjoy Hundreds of Beavers?
There's not I don't. I mean, he would enjoy it for like an opportunity to sit in silence. I don't know though, because not really. The music in Hundreds.
There's sound in it.
Yeah, there's sound. There's a whole
But
soundtrack
I
to
don't
it.
think I don't think Daredevil. I don't think many blind people can enjoy Hundreds of Beavers.
No, and we'll get it. Yeah, because Hundreds of Beavers is a very
I'm not even
specific
trying to
sort of
shame
film.
blind people. I just think that movie weighs heavily on what's happening on screen. I could be wrong. I'm not blind.
Unless I don't know, man. Like sometimes these captions for the blind, I don't know. I can't imagine them being as good. They can't really describe what you're seeing
It
in like the way
reminds
you need
me
to.
of this person who went on Tosh.0, who was a blind movie critic, and Tosh asked him if he likes the Fast and the Furious movies. Like, no, I wouldn't want to listen to that. It's like I could just open the door and listen to traffic.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like this has like a nice like old school comic book, or not comic, an old school cartoon soundtrack to it. So like, or like in silent movie contractor. I keep saying contract, but I mean soundtrack.
Soundtrack, yeah.
Listeners, if you hear me say contract, I mean soundtrack. They apparently
And when he
something's
says
happening.
soundtrack, he means contract.
Yeah, exactly. It's confusing. It really hampers my business dealings. But anyway, yeah. So I tried to show my kids Iron Man because I'm like, if you're gonna start, I'm gonna start you from the beginning, and they got bored to tears. And I've tried to watch Iron Man 4 times, and I've fallen asleep 3 out of the 4. And that's like the start of it. So I'm like, I'm not gonna push past it. What's the point?
If you're a superhero fan, I think you're gonna find some enjoyment in these superhero movies. I'm just kind of superhero fatigued, burnt out in general, so I'm just kind of biding my time and just waiting for a real good one. And once everyone has watched it and can tell me it's good, I think I'll put more time and effort in that. But like, I went to this movie with friends, coworkers who like to watch bad movies, so we kind of had that expectation going into this, and it didn't fall short. It is bad. So if you think otherwise, that's cool. Enjoy your opinion. This is mine.
Yeah, and like I'm not here to tell anyone that like what they like and don't like in movies is wrong, listeners. So like if you love superhero movies and you're like this is garbage. This is just my opinion.
This is the high. It doesn't get better than this. Look how many superhero movies happen each year now.
Look, I'll be real. I'm more mad at superhero movies because all the fucking actors are in superhero movies now. So who's left for all the rest? They're like you have a director who's up and coming and shows some good stuff. They're like, hey, snag him for the next fucking Morbius movie, you know? And it's like now we're missing out all this art. Anyway, sorry, superhero movie fans.
That's all we have. That's all I have.
Okay. I have a film that's in theaters right now as we record this on February 28th. That I won't spoil too much for that reason. It's called The Monkey. It is Osgood Perkins' film following Longlegs. It seems to have released really quickly after Longlegs. I did read about this. It was not that they made the movie fast. It's just that Longlegs had been delayed due to the COVID. So Longlegs had been filmed quite a bit earlier and then was released around the same time as The Monkey because that seemed to be the smarter idea. So anyways, The Monkey comes out. It is written by Osgood Perkins and Stephen King. It stars Theo James, who, if you are confused about Theo James, he is the guy who looks just like James Franco, but is not James Franco.
Yeah, I know him from The White Lotus season 2. He was good.
Yeah, same. I was wondering where he looked so familiar, and it was that. It was White Lotus season 2. Mm-hmm. And he is good in that. And I will say this, and The Monkey is also good. He does very good with the role he's given. The Monkey is a comedy horror film, which is not scary. Don't go into it expecting to be scared. There's nothing there for you if that's what you want.
Sure.
It's more about like the macabre and gore effects than anything else.
It's a Saw with funny aspects.
Yeah, and what I'll say about the film is that I don't think like it completely hits on either cylinder.
Oh no!
But when it does lean in, it has some genuinely great moments. Okay. There are some times where it is actually really funny, and I did really laugh pretty hard. And there are times where the gore effects were very entertaining.
Yeah. Nice.
but it's not like a holistic picture where it's like it keeps this thing going the whole way through and you're like sucked into it. It's more like there are moments that I could recall and tell you they're good.
Yeah.
While the movie as a whole kind of fell a little flat for me.
Oh, okay.
Now I'm not saying it's bad. It's still like it's more entertaining than I would watch this movie 10 times in a row before I watch The Presence again. So it's got that going for it.
Okay.
I'm giving this one a 5.5 out of 10.
All right.
And it's not a bad film. I really enjoyed certain spots. Sure. My biggest complaint probably is that I think that it could have been better.
Is it better than Barbarian?
No.
Right.
No, but it's not too far off.
Because those kind of fall in the same genre.
Yeah, now this one I think is funnier than Barbarian.
Okay, I can get into that.
It's not as tense. So where the tension in Barbarian exists in the first half, it doesn't really have that moment of tension in this film, but it does have more comedy. Like when this is like a flat out comedy and it knows it's a comedy and it's not fucking around with trying to be serious, it's actually pretty funny. Like Theo James is a really good comedic actor, and I think if they had just let him cook in that role, this movie would have been amazing the whole way through. But they kind of pulled it back a few different times where they're like, okay, let's make it more horror like, and it didn't hit as well, you know.
Oh, that's too bad. All right,
but you know that's so 5.5 out of 10. I would still say it is worth watching in theaters if you're into it and you just want to watch a horror movie. Don't like let that review score sound terrible because the 5.5 isn't the worst thing I've ever watched.
It's gonna be on streaming, dude. These movies come on streaming so fast now.
That's true. You can watch Companion already. You can watch Dogman already. Exactly. Like they're fucking
dude. Just wait for it to come on streaming.
And then I had another movie. I don't think you had another one, did you?
No, but one thing.
Yes.
I mean, Captain America: Brave New World. You know, even though people are kind of like dogging on this film, I think they're gonna keep making this because budget $180 million, box office $295. Dude, people are watching this, so they're just gonna keep doing it.
It's about the money, and I mean, what's gonna happen is like it'll keep going for a while. Mm-hmm. They can reduce those budgets in different ways, right? And until it goes below the budget. I even have like worries about that because like if you look at a movie like Morbius, right, like that movie tanked, and yet I think it had like a pretty good second life because of the memes.
Oh no, it also tanked the second time. They try to the producers or the people who are trying to put that back in theaters, like, hey, y'all trying to Morbin? You out there trying to Morbin time? Like, no, we weren't. We were just laughing at it. We didn't actually want to go to actually see it.
Okay, here's what I'll tell you, right? All right, so the movie's production budget was $75 million.
Which one?
Overall, Morbius. Overall, it made $162 million.
I mean, it's making money, but it's a blemish on everybody who worked on it. Like, you're not going to get a sequel on Morbin.
Yeah, I think the one who's going to hurt the most from Morbius is Jared Leto, because I think he really needed a win at that time.
Jared Leto, dude.
No, that's what I mean. He needed that win. He really needed that fucking win, and he didn't get it. So it's like it's over.
Yeah. One last thing. My buddy asked me who my favorite actor who's acting right now.
Yeah.
And I had to think about it, and for the most part, I like a lot of Brad Pitt films. I watch a lot of Brad Pitt films unknowingly. I think he just picks good movies, kind of like how Willem Dafoe does it. I know Brad Pitt has some like blemishes on his record, but for the most part, Brad Pitt does some good films. Inglourious Basterds, man, he acted the hell out of that in that film.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I like Brad Pitt quite a bit. And I don't know anything he's done recently, but like,
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was a fun film.
See, that one, he was actually pretty good, and I didn't like that movie as much in like context of Quentin Tarantino movies. But like it wasn't a bad movie. So like this, me talking shit about someone who does really good movies, you know what I mean? Like it's worse than doesn't mean it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, I mean that's a hard question, anyways.
You don't have to answer it right now. I just wanted to share that. What's your last movie, man?
Oh, okay. So my last movie is we went with a classic. In certain terms, I watched the movie Virus from 1999. That's not to be confused with any of the other versions of Virus that exist. So this is the one directed by John Bruno. It is starring Kiefer Sutherland, Jamie Lee Curtis, and William Baldwin. And you did hear that right. It is one of the Baldwins that is not.
Oh wow,
Alec.
And Steven.
And Steven. So it's William Baldwin. And it is a film set on a boat based on a computer virus downloaded from space that makes robots sentient.
Like T2, Terminator? Stuff?
Yeah. And I mean, kind of. It's a little different. So they're not that sentient. Their whole entire job is to wipe out the biggest virus on Earth. And the biggest virus on Earth, as you can probably guess, is man. Humans. Yeah, so that's the idea. Now, the producer of Terminator 2, funny enough, was the producer of this film as well.
He's like, we got a good idea. We're just going to keep this train rolling.
And the special effects crew was the guys who did The Abyss, which had won an Oscar for the year it came out. I forget which year, for best special effects. And what I can say about this film is that the setting is really good. The story is super shitty, but works. And the acting is pretty bad, but also works in this case. I mean, like not Kiefer. I said Kiefer Sutherland, and I apologize to everybody listening. It was Donald Sutherland, his dad.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Who is in this film? I apologize to everybody. It's not Kiefer. It is Donald. Rest in peace. And Donald Sutherland's character in this film is such a confusing.
I didn't even know he died.
Yeah. So anyways, this film is an incredibly fun watch. It's not. Okay. It's got like amazing special effects. Like this special effects team that won an Oscar. I understand how they won an Oscar for this movie. This movie's special effects are punching so far above its weight level, it barely makes any sense. Like the monsters, the kills, like everything in this movie looks great. One of the Donald Sutherland at some point, like his body is used to create a new robot, and the effects that they use to create this Donald Sutherland robot thing are so fucking cool that it's kind of shocking that I don't hear this movie talked about more often. Now, the reason you wouldn't hear it talked about more often is it's got kind of that like mid 90s like sitcom effect with the lighting. If that makes sense to you, like the lighting all kind of feels a little bit washed out and dreamy, so like no scenes are really like creating pools of light. When they're outside, it's great, but when they're inside the ship, it doesn't look that good. I watched this on VHS, so like the potential new Blu-ray could look a lot better. I don't know.
Dude, this movie flopped. It budgeted $75 million and only made 30.
Yeah, it flopped hard, and it makes sense because again, the story's super shitty. It moved things from point A to point B, but like it was super shitty.
The acting with this one,
the acting was honestly pretty bad.
Oh my gosh, you're not selling this for me at all, Miss.
No,
it's funny to watch how bad the act maybe doesn't be worth it.
No, but it's not about that. It is about the monsters they are fighting, and the monsters and the special effects are so fucking cool.
They blew all their budget on the special effects and not the story.
100%. And as someone watching it now, when the money doesn't matter in 2025, almost almost 30 years after it came out, I appreciate it.
There was action figures tied into this.
Oh, dude, I bet there would be some really cool.
In a video game, dude. The marketing team was marketing this one, dude.
And if they had managed to make like a movie that would make sense to continue on, it would have been great. Like so they blew it in one area. So the whole entire idea is this virus wants to make it from the ship that had been abandoned, except for one crew member, to land, because to infect other computers, it had to get to a place where it could get on the internet, right? And this is the year 1999. They can't just Starlink that shit. They got to get somewhere to get a line.
Yeah, get some DSL.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, they need the crew to get them there, but then the robots make stupid decisions that aren't going to get them there because they'd end up just trying to kill everybody, right? And, like, if the ship had made it to shore, they could have made all this shit that they wanted to, but they didn't. So, realistically, this is one of those movies where it's like writing could have made this movie great because that special effects team was ready to fucking cook. They were there and they were like, let's do this shit. Let's make this cool. Let's fucking go. And everyone else is like, yeah, but what do you do? It's just robots on a boat, right? And they're not wrong because that's what they fucking wrote. Anyways, 5 out of 10. But watch it for the special effects if you like that.
Even with a shit story and a fucking terrible acting.
Dude, those fucking special effects are cool.
Dude, it's 4 out of 10 for the special effects and the 1 out of 10 for everything else. That's really
that might be accurate. It is kind of funny to watch Donald Sutherland play like a drunk creep. He gets to do this thing where he's like holding a gun against his head. And this is very early in the movie, right? And someone goes up there and like, "Sir, your captain, there's a ship dead at sea." And he gets to deliver the line of like, "Yeah, all right, I'll be there in a minute." And he's got the gun in his mouth, and he means he'll be dead at sea. And,
oh no!
Like that's some dark humor, but it's a great line.
That is dark humor at its core.
But Jamie Lee Curtis and William Baldwin have terrible chemistry, like the worst chemistry, and like.
And did they try to have a love interest with one another?
Yeah, they kind of did. And then Jamie Lee Curtis, like, she like throws a punch at Donald Sutherland, and it is the most whack-looking punch I've ever seen, and it knocks him out. It's funny. It's okay. But, watch this movie if you know what you're getting into.
Watch it for the special effects and nothing else. I got it.
Yes. It is very cool. Okay. Right. With that said, I don't think I have anything else. Let's jump into the movie that we were speaking of today.
Of Beavers.
That is exactly right. We are watching a movie about. Okay, well, I'm gonna segue here because, like, of course, the description of it doesn't really lead to any segues that I can do. So, okay, here we go. Hundreds of beavers in this 19th century supernatural winter epic. A drunken applejack salesman must go from zero to hero and become North America's greatest fur trapper by defeating hundreds of beavers. This is the movie directed and written by Mike Cheslik. It depends on who you talk to and when it came out. So my understanding of like the differences between people who are saying it came out in 2023, 2024, 2022 are just like what country it released in. Because this movie had a weird ramp to getting into like multiple people's houses. Yeah. Because they specifically didn't want to just dump it on a streaming service because they say when you dump something on a streaming service, it's there and then it's done and it has no life.
It gets kind of forgotten unless it picks up steam elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, and they said like they put enough time in it to make this movie. They might as well put enough time in it to try to give it a life of its own.
Sure.
So they toured all of like the film festivals and kept showing it off, and it was officially done, and the first showing was in 2022, but it was not released in theaters till 2023, and then it wasn't released widely until last year, 2024. So that's where you see all the confusion.
Okay.
And now that everyone knows that, we can move on with the story. So Hundreds of Beavers. It is pretty much a silent film.
Yeah, a few words here and there and some gibberish said by the Beavers.
Yeah, it's what I can only really call it like a slapstick comedy film. That's in the styling of think like Buster Keaton meets Looney Tunes.
Yeah, I was getting some Wile E. Coyote versus Roadrunner energy.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple quotes that I think are pretty nice just to like completely understand what they were going for. So like the director said this was a silent film and a video game slapped onto a really simple 2-page treatment of a Campbellian hero arc. Now the Campbellian hero arcs are kind of like the classic hero arcs you see in films. You go look that up if you want to get into it. We don't need to get into like film writing styles here, but that seems pretty much right. Like the story is very simple. The story is man has brewery.
Yep.
Brewery gets destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Man wants to get to survive.
Yeah.
Man falls in love. And he wants to make enough money to win her heart from win the ring from the dad. Win the approval of the dad.
He didn't know that at first. He was just doing all this stuff to survive at first.
Mm-hmm.
He lost it all, dude. He became a drunken buffoon.
He got beaved.
His empire.
Well, the Beavers stole his applejack.
This is true. The Beavers, if it wasn't for the Beavers chopping down his supply of apple cider, he wouldn't be in this mess. So it's, the natural fight between man versus nature.
One thing I will say about this very simple story is they do a pretty good tie-in on this one little plot here. Is that at first it looks like the beavers are just like they're beaving out, they're just eating wood.
Yeah, they be beaving.
And they're like, oh well, of course, because his applejack kegs are on stilts. They're gonna destroy him, right? And it's just like happenstance this happens.
Kind of a dickhead move, though.
Well, it is a dickhead move, but then they tie it together at the end, right? Where it's like the Beavers didn't do this out of random pure chaos. They did it to fuel their rocket ship.
Yeah, that's what it ended up being, right? They turned his his distillery container into a rocket ship, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because these beavers have more occupations than just collecting wood.
The beavers,
they're building rockets out of distilleries, and there's beaver engineers, beaver detectives, beaver judges, beaver council. A lot of beaver activities in this that.
Frankly, the way he destroys this beaver society is kind of akin to the way the people who burned down the library of what's that?
Alexandria?
Yeah. That's not the right name. What is the ancient library that got burned down?
Library of Alexandria? I don't know.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so.
Library of Knowledge?
It is. Okay. It is the Library of Alexandria.
I
doubt it myself.
I know what's going on.
Listeners, if you hear this, understand that we know more than we think we do.
That's a game.
So yeah, because these beavers have a far more advanced society than any of the humans I see in this movie.
Oh yeah, dude, their dam is intricate.
But I think to talk about the plot would be losing the point of the movie.
The plot is get food to survive. Once you know how to survive, get food to clothe yourself, and then it's just him, leveling up as a trapper.
Yeah,
certified trapper.
Mm-hmm. And each time he levels up, he gets a new piece of equipment, and it makes him better.
It is like a video game, like they said. Like he just looks like he's building up his character.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He starts off with nothing.
What I would say, easily, the first place that you have to go when you talk about this movie is just the visual style, because I think the visual style. I don't want to say it is the movie, but it's such a significant part of the movie.
Yeah, it definitely lends into the whole aspect of like this is a comedy.
I'm gonna
very slapsticky.
Now, I think for context of anyone who's listening to this, I watched this with my kids, and I want to just go ahead and say, for bias sake, that was a very helpful way to watch this movie.
Was it?
Because the kids were into it. They were entertained the whole way through. They were laughing. They were cracking up.
Did they have anything to say about that random pole dancing moment?
They're 4 and 2, so they don't know what that means. So I didn't explain it. I was like, yeah, she's just doing some weird stuff.
Yeah, she's just dancing.
He's like, that's a weird dance, huh, Dad? And I'm like, yeah, it is. We're just gonna let it be there. I don't need to get in further on this one. Like, you're 4 years old. You learn about that sometime later on in your life, not now.
Yeah, at the end of the day, this can be seen as an entertaining kids film. Outside of that one moment, there's some very crude humor, but nothing you wouldn't see sometimes in like some cartoons. Like there's some crude humor in cartoons too.
Yeah, and I'm not like super strict on like the content. Like if it's not overly bad, I don't really worry too much. Like you'd have like the bunnies with the boobs, right? And like that doesn't worry me.
No bunnies.
Yeah, because people have boobs. Who cares?
Some people have boobs.
Like so I thought honestly, what really gets to me in this movie is that a lot of these scenes are very clever. It's like this is 4 dudes made this movie, only 4 of them. And when you see more than 4 people on screen, apparently that's just After Effects and him adding like people into it with special effects. That's not more people.
Who's the main actor's name?
So the main actor's name is Ryland Brixton Cole Twos. He's got 4 names.
Jeez.
And he did a really he did a particularly good job at making his humor appear physical. Now, I can't compare him to people like Buster Keaton because they were actually doing their own stunts for the most part, whereas in this film, a lot of it was special effects.
Sure.
So it's not like he was like Buster Keaton level, but as far as like getting his body and being like non-verbally communicative, I think he did a pretty darn good job. And all of the people in the costumes did a pretty good job. Like I think that they went real hard into like doing all their physical acts over the top, and it really worked. Because I think as far as like what they set out to do with a silent film, it was very visually entertaining. Almost felt like I see a lot of people comparing it to Looney Tunes, and I think that's pretty good. That's a fair comparison. And just trying to make it over the top to the point where each gag is so stupid it could never exist in real life, and that's why it's so funny. I think they really hit something here that I will say, and this isn't my end review, but it's going to hit some portions for people. It's not for everybody. You have to be, I think, in the right state of mind to watch this movie. I think if you're in a bad mood and you watch this movie, it's not going to put you in a good mood.
No, I wasn't in a bad mood watching this, but I had an open mind to watching this, and I was like, halfway through the movie, I was like, I didn't realize there was a silent film. That probably did me no service.
You're like, what? Why are they saying anything?
Like, is there no dialogue in this? Oh no, it's literally just silent films, reactions, and people in animal costumes. And kudos to them for avoiding animal cruelty. This is their way of getting past all the animal cruelty, putting humans in animal suits.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, I was in a good mood. Both my kids are in good moods, and they really enjoyed it. So I think I had a pretty decent experience with this film. It was a little bit maybe overly long. At 2 hours, it probably could have shaved off some of that time. Like in the beginning, this movie has, like, in my opinion, 3 acts. Right, in the first act, you're seeing him just try to survive and try to find food, and then in the second act, you're seeing him trying to, as you say, level up to get the ring, and on the third act, you see him full on in warfare with these beavers.
Yeah, warfare with the beavers.
And I think that first act, the hard part about this film is that first act is maybe the least interesting part of the movie, and it kind of drags on.
Yeah,
and it sets up some gags that you see later, but I don't know that you need to spend so much time setting them up.
I got kind of annoyed by the woodpecker gag. It got kind of tired.
Yeah,
I get it. It's a fun callback, but it got kind of boring after. But it plays into like the storyline, so it's not like the worst thing.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing I didn't hate about it, is like it ended up being like just another tool for him ultimately. Yeah. Like, and it was a stupid tool that shouldn't have worked, but he figured out how to make it work, and so it ended up being a tool.
Fall in the cactus again just to get more cactus. He didn't need to fall into the cactus to get in the cactus.
No, like, I mean that's that awful logic.
Comedy. Yeah, that's putting too much logic into this movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's still dumb.
Like, realistically, this dude should have walked to an actual city and tried to find something to help him out, but like instead he's like, okay, I mean, all logic goes out the window when your very first scene of the character after the introduction song is him covered in like 2 feet of snow with no shirt on and only his long johns with snot icicles hanging out of his face. They're like 6 inches long each.
Dude, he used a snot icicle to impale a wolf. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, and doesn't he use the snot icicle also to get the beaver suit to sneak into the dam?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
He was using it to like telescope.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, you're right. It was the telescope, exactly. Yep. I think, and as you're listening to this, and if you haven't seen the movie, you're probably going like, "Wow, this all sounds so over the top and ridiculous." And I think that's what it had going for it. And I think in the beginning, what it does is it relies a little bit too much on slow buildup of this, and the hunting of the rabbits, and the raccoons eating the rabbits, and all this is where the only big issue I have with this film is that it just takes too long to get from there to the trapper's house. Once it gets to the trapper's house, it is so much better of a movie. and then once it gets to the Beavers, it is even better. So it's got a good ramp up, but that first part is so long.
Dude, you know what this movie kind of reminds me of? The art direction and the styling. Did you ever watch this? I think it was on Nickelodeon called Nickelodeon cartoon called Angela Anaconda.
No, I
No,
did
dude,
not.
I'll Discord it to you later. But there's, I just picked up on Angela and Anaconda vibes from the way that this movie looks.
Yeah, okay. I looked it up while you were speaking here, and I actually this is like this exists in my brain, and I oh, this is weird. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that was always a weird show to me because it like looked like humans, but it was designed as like a really, like, I don't know, it's out there.
Yeah, that
But
actually one of the animation style in this reminded me of Tom Goes to the Mayor, and that actually kind of looks similar to that. Like
okay,
on
yeah, that too.
on times where like he was running on the giant ball or on the log to keep the log going, right? That looks so much like Tom Goes to the Mayor during like these speech scenes that I was just like, okay, this guy is clearly has watched Tom Goes to the Mayor and is using the same similar style, which makes sense. So this movie was made by Mike Cheslik, right? And he did the direction, but he also did all of the post production. And the 80% of the movie is post production. This is like really a special effects heavy movie. Every scene almost has something that's special effects. They didn't build any actual buildings, so anything that doesn't look like nature or like the cabin was added in After Effects by one guy. And so this movie took him 4 years to make because he was just sitting there and editing it.
Impressive.
Which is impressive. That's just like this is a movie of sheer dedication of one
Yeah,
individual to make it happen and make it make sense. And I'm not,
kudos to them.
and like so if you can watch like YouTube videos of it, if you see things like the flies that he had buzzing around him, right? He
Yeah,
actually like would build out the fly and record it on a green screen, so then he could
wow,
add it in After Effects into the film. So I think there's like a lot of passion in this movie, and you can kind of see that. But it is a movie again that I think that you really have to go into it in a certain frame of mind to enjoy it, because otherwise, it's not for everyone and it's not for every occasion.
yeah, yeah. I was wondering when this whole Hundreds of Beavers was gonna pop up on screen, and it finally did. Eventually, once he found out what he had to do to earn the love of the shopkeeper's daughter, he had to get 100 beavers, and he did that, and then some, dude. He made it rain beavers later.
It's literally raining beavers. The physical, just the raining of beavers and all of the props. I don't want to call them props. What should I call it? Like the gags with the beavers. It's like when the beavers create the gigantic beaver mech.
Oh, dude, yeah, when he created a Power Ranger style beaver Megatron,
Yeah, that was
dude, that
it
was
was
funny.
it was great. Like
That was hilarious.
I know this is not the correct way to chronologically talk about a movie, but I want to talk about the last third of this film because I think the last third of this film,
It's probably the best part.
I laughed a lot during the end of this movie.
Yeah,
Um,
that showdown was hilarious.
and are you talking about the showdown in the cabin
I
when
think
they?
so. Yeah, when he just started like knocking them out one by one. I think he like uppercutted a beaver's head off, and
Mm-hmm.
it was like left with the skeleton only.
Yeah, that was like a callback to like Friday the 13th. Jason Takes Manhattan. It looked exactly like that. I love that little callback. I there was like a really couple really clever parts of the movie. One of the most clever parts, in my opinion, is when the trapper walks into the door during that scene, and I'm talking about the old trapper who dies in Act Two.
The
And
snowman, not snowman, the Santa Claus,
yeah, the Santa Claus looking guy.
the
That's
plot
what
twister.
that's what my kid called him also. Yeah, and then he unzipped his body, and it was a beaver underneath.
Yeah,
That
spoilers on
was
that one. That's a big one because that I didn't see that coming.
no, and that was clever because they had watched him do the same thing with their beaver earlier, except his was like a grotesque, awful version of it.
Was that guy always the beaver?
No, no, but he had died to the wolves earlier, so
That's what it was, and so they
mm-hmm.
just skinned him and used him as a decoy.
Yep, a way to
Oh,
get
not a
into.
decoy, but like as a costume, so they can trick him.
Yeah, so they use that to like get into a human society in some way.
Okay.
And what led to that whole entire in that scene in that cabin at that point was probably where the movie really kicked off. Like before that, when he's doing the theatrics on the log,
The movie kicks off at the end.
well, yeah, you're right. That's the wrong way to say it, but I think it like takes it up a notch at the very least. Like,
Yeah, no, it definitely elevated the fun in the movie. Like I was halfway through the film, I was like, man, this is feeling like a fart. And Nick, what did you make me watch, man? This is not my type of film.
see,
This is kind of
that's where I think it's different. You got to watch these sort of films with people. Is what I think is the thing I'm getting at early here. Is like this is
sure,
one.
yeah, it does warrant having commentary to watch this along with, because there's things that make you say things out loud, because this is so ridiculous. This movie's so ridiculous.
It is. So I think like at that point we start seeing the rocket ship, which gets fucked up. We start getting like I think well, what was the giant log or the giant it wasn't a giant log. What was the circle that he was running on made out of?
A donut? I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, because at the very end, after the rocket ship blasts off and the beavers are chasing him, he's running on top of something.
It wasn't the pile of beavers, was it, that he originally?
Oh, you know what? I think it might have been, and then it was like covered in snow.
Yeah,
I think
that's
that's
all
exactly
I can think
right.
of at the moment, without seeing it in front of me. What was I gonna say? This this movie ended way better than Dog Soldiers. I'll give it that.
I appreciated this because like the third act is when you see the all of the gags that they've been setting up really come to fruition, and I think that's something that they did well in this, is that some of these gags that they stuck with really did pay off in really great ways. The horse costume gag was so wickedly stupid.
Oh, dude, it was so funny, and it's sad to say it, but it was funny to hear the Native American that he was helping him along the way, his counterpart. He had the horse, and the horse gets stomped by the beaver patron.
But and
he screams. It's funny how he screams, because the moments where you hear sound from people is the funniest, because it's so unexpected when it's going to happen.
Yeah, and then we see our main character, the
Gene.
Yeah, he uses his screams as like a tool of his also.
Yeah, he says "oh shit" at one moment. That was so like, he says "oh sh," I think, and it's because like there's like a beaver waving or wielding a stone sling boulder, or a sling boulder or some shit. I don't know.
It's like the premise of this film, from what I can understand, is he goes from surviving to meets the trapper and the trapper merchant,
The
seller.
the seller.
Yeah, the person he sells the beavers to, but he also meets the trapper, and the trapper shows him all how to create all these like intricate traps. But Gene's not smart enough really to like follow his old lines, so he just makes his new ones. And you kind of see like the system he's setting up. So you're watching this guy go from zero to hero, right? He has nothing. He knows nothing. He has everything gifted to him, and he still can't fucking figure it out. So he just starts over, basically. And we see like some really clever ideas just drawn up. And I think that when I was watching the interviews with this director, like how this movie was made is that they would come up with an idea and they would shoot that idea, and then they would fit it into the story. And so like each idea was just a clever idea they could come up with, and then fitting it into the story was simple because the story was so simple. And I personally, I have a lot of respect for this film because it's like it just shows that these dudes can make a movie and it can start making like some sort of waves in certain places, because it's not a gigantic movie by any means.
No,
However,
the budget on this is low, and the box office was not that high either. The budget was 150,000, and then the box office is 100. Not 100, 800,000. So
yeah,
it made some money, but
it's almost up to a mil worldwide, but it still hasn't ever gotten. It never got a wide release.
Yeah, so we'll see if it captures the masses and like a cult following or something.
Yeah, and I mean this is how I heard about it, because it is already gathering like its own version of a cult following because people talk about this film. It's been nominated for 21 different awards.
Jeez.
Just all over the place.
They just do this movie everywhere. Like, hey, we could get this nomination. Hey, might as well just try it out.
Maybe well, I mean, so this one of the guys, Daniel Scheinert, one of the Daniels who actually helped direct Everything Everywhere All at Once. He called this film the future of cinema. So there are people who do like this movie.
The future of cinema. Wow, those are some high accolades. That's a lot to follow, but it's good. I mean, it's a fun film. It's not my cup of tea. Who would you recommend this to, man?
I think that the movie works well. Audience? And I like take a look at the audience at the beginning of this movie, right? So you have a bunch of people who are drinking in a bar, and I would say that would be a great place to have this movie going is people who are here for a fun movie at a bar and are drunk.
Okay.
They will love this movie. I also think like just in general, the idea and how it's made, I really appreciate the fact that there is not a single other movie I could tell you looks like this film.
Yeah, I give it that. It is very unique in its own way, and it has that going for it.
Well, like so. you hear these like in the years of 2025, you can't ever find anything unique any longer, right? And it's like that's not necessarily true.
Of course not. Yeah,
you just have to look way out of the box.
You have to look for it. That's exactly it.
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood's not pushing this on us.
No. There was. I'm trying to remember the indoor moving water scene really struck me as something that was like a really cool just picture. And I can't describe it more in depth than indoor water moving scene because I don't know what else to call it. But
visuals. I think you'd have to watch it and find out for yourself what sticks out to you because I think this movie offers a lot, and there's gonna be things that stick out to you more than other things. So, yeah, I mean, it's a fun film. I don't have a whole much to say on it, other than it is very Looney Tune-esque for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll let you add on what you have.
Yeah. Okay. So so in this film we're just going to talk. I'll just talk about gags. Like I really appreciated the dogs playing poker and how it changed every single time a dog died.
Oh, really? I didn't even catch that.
Yeah.
Like, what have you want to rewatch this for certain reasons? Because there is a lot on screen.
Mm-hmm. There's a ton going on. I really love the frog creature that they used to trap the skunks. I thought he had probably the best design of any of the things in the film. Sherlock and Watson as the beaver detectives that were chasing after him were pretty funny. I thought that was a nice little gag, and I don't think it really paid off super well, but it was just nice to like have this idea that the beavers are onto him and they're trying to figure out what's happening as he's murdering hundreds of them. The title card was at the 1 hour and 15-minute mark. So that is 75 minutes into the movie. You get the title card for the movie. The credits themselves begin at 30 minutes. And for some reason, it works really well. I also, again, during that part where we saw the Santa Claus guy get his skin zipped off, it changes John's credit from fur trapper to fur to human costume. And I thought that was a good one. The man in the horse costume was actually probably the thing I laughed the hardest at, but every time it showed it because all the other costumes are so well done and they've got such character. Then the horse costume is just a sheet with two dudes in it, and you can see his face through the middle.
You can see his actual face, where all these other animals are covered with the animal's head.
And that's just like a nice little subversion of expectations of your own film. I did appreciate that.
Yeah.
To
think about.
Yeah, the director himself, he said if you establish a shitty look early on, you're more unlimited with what you can do. And they definitely did that. But what I also like is that he established that look, and then he also used it to make jokes against itself. So, like, the horse was just completely meta humor on this, like, breaking the fourth wall almost on this movie. Like, haha, look, we did good on everything else, but we fucked this. But it was so funny. And then when the Native American tries to ride that horse, and it is so stupid because it does not work because it is just two dudes in a sheet.
Yeah, we don't get a lot of like names, so that's why we're saying this. But on Wikipedia, it has Luis Rico, who plays the Indian fur trapper. That's who we're talking about, with the Native American who helps them along the way.
Yeah,
And in Green Bay, we didn't find out they were in Green Bay till like the end too. We don't know anything. We don't know a lot of a lot of things that kind of help us understand this film until slowly by the end.
That's true. And we do see on the map at the end, like exactly where it is in Wisconsin, which is funny. I would have guessed on my life that this was a Canadian film. Watching it,
Yeah, because there's so many days with snow, man.
not only just so many days of snow, but they looked like they were speaking French, right? And I'm like, snow,
Oh,
Americana,
there
Beavers,
could be
French,
there
Canadian.
could be some French dialogue that I may have missed.
No, I don't think they said it out loud. It just kind of like
Oh,
looked like it, which I don't know. Maybe that's just me saying some stupid shit. Um, the one gag that I thought was incredibly clever was the footprint path of life.
oh
So,
yeah, I wanted to comment on that too, and it's so sad how he, you know, kills.
it's one of these scenes that's so clever because it gets you to have like a connection to the prey
Yeah,
he's about to see so fast because you see this whole entire life path play out from the footprints in the snow, and then you get to the end of it and there's just the two little bunny kids and you're like, oh, he's got to let them go because they had parents but the parents died and oh my gosh, it's so sad. And then he's a trapper though. That's what he does.
Trapper's gonna be trapping.
Exactly. Trapper's got a trap.
Trapper's
uh um yeah, I think I wrote this is the story of how Green Bay was created.
the discovery of Green Bay.
And then I guess ultimately my absolute favorite gag was just how much blood this guy would puke up every time he chewed on something.
Oh, dude, he can make anything out of his teeth. It seemed like
Anything, but he would puke up a full like 2 gallons of blood.
And you know what? The Beavers were dickheads because he tried to make a makeshift tombstone for his buddy to bury, and then the Beavers took the tombstone. That was
Honestly, I think that was the moment when he went, you know what, fuck y'all, I'm doing this thing for real. They took that fucking they took the tombstone away that he had made with his mouth and bled out, and he's just like, all right, here we go. You want hundreds of beavers to marry this lady? I'm gonna get them.
yeah,
Um,
really determined.
yeah. So I guess that's there's not like a huge amount more to say. I think this is a film that you would have to watch.
Yeah, you have to watch it and experience it for yourself. What we're gonna tell you is gonna be completely different from what you experience. I feel like so. If what we've been saying up to this point sounds interesting to you, check it out. But assuming you're listening to this, you probably already checked it out. So give us your points, give us your takes. We're here to listen.
So, Angela, I'll have you drop your review first, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a whole lot to say about this film. It is, it was. There are highlights, and there's things to talk about, and there's funny bits, but not enough for me to be interested or entertained throughout. Kind of what you were saying, like the first two acts did not pull me in, but by the third act, that's where everything kind of pieced together, and I like that. That boosts the score up a little bit more. This movie is not good. I mean, this movie is good, not great. That's what I meant to say. This movie is good, but not great. I'm giving this like a 5 out of 10. There's like some absurd and funny parts at the end of the film that just make it worth it. So, give it a watch if you have the time, or if you've already watched it, let us know how hot my take was.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm gonna say this. I'm trying to do math right now. That's a stupid thing to do this second, but I'm doing it. Okay, there we go. I got it. I got my number. Okay, so I think you got to go into this movie with a certain mindset, and I think you have to go into it when you are in a good mood, and that's not necessarily caveats you want to have on a movie, but it's not, strictly speaking, a movie that's like other movies. It's kind of its own swerve. So, the story's just so basic it almost doesn't matter. Like it matters in the fact that it gets you bought into the characters, but then you move on. The acting, I would say, is very well done for what they're asking. It is not the sort of acting that you would want to see in a serious film. However, with a movie that needs to be so over the top to get its point across without words, they do pretty well. And the physical gags where they are done well. And just the body language does not look lazy. It doesn't look boring. They managed to make that look interesting. Creativity. I would label this one of the more creative movies that I've seen in a long time. I haven't seen anything that I could say looks like this. Like I can tell you that it's a silent film. I can tell you that it looks like Looney Tunes. I can tell you that it's a mishmash of the two of those. But like on the real, there's just nothing really to compare it to. Like you might like because it's not any of those things. It's just this thing. This is it makes so much more sense when you realize it's just the brain product of one dude in After Effects over 4 years because it's not even consistent with it within itself. And for this sort of movie, I think that pretty much works. So for as far as creativity, I'm going to give this one a pretty high score. The pacing we talked about enough. Pacing is the one major issue. I think they could have cut out a lot of time in this film. I don't mind it being a major picture. I've seen a lot of people talking about that, but I think if you would have brought it down to an hour and a half and shaved off maybe like 20-30 minutes of this film, it would have benefited greatly because the 2 hour runtime just it goes on a little bit too long. I could talk about the times that I don't really like the cactus gag over and over again. Not my thing. How long it takes him to catch that first bunny, it's too long for what the movie ultimately ends up being because the movie ends up being so much more than that. Get me to the spittoon as fast as possible, you know. Like those gags are the good ones. They don't the first ones I guess set up the place the bunnies with boobs just aren't that entertaining. The sound, I don't know. I'm not like into like classic soundtracks a ton. I like our Looney Tunes soundtracks. I think it did well. I don't think the pacing was the sounds problem, and I think the actual funny effects were all right. But it wasn't like an overly huge win on sound design. So here's what I'm giving it. Its story is a 2, acting is a 4, creativity is a 5, pacing is a 2, and sound is a 3, which brings me up to a 6. That feels fair. I will say, like again, if you have this option and you're listening to this, and you don't mind your kids seeing, I would call it mild, mild sexual references because they're so mild that it almost doesn't matter. You'll see a silhouette of bunnies on the ground. If your kid doesn't know, they don't know. The stripper pole thing is the worst, but even then, it's really not that bad if the kid's not in the know. It was a great watch with the kids. Like it was really enjoyable. Would I watch it again? Yeah, I'd probably watch it one more time. I don't know how many more times I could get out of it than that. But 6 out of 10 is where I'm sitting on it.
Yeah, the spittoon gags were fun. I liked each of those gags, especially the last to kind of, you know, curtain call the movie.
I find for me it's just worth a watch because there's nothing else like it. Yeah. And I think that's one of the huge criteria I have. Just listening to some weird shit. So Andrew, I'm pretty sure everyone already knows, but go ahead, tell us what is the next film we're watching.
Oh yeah, if you've been kind of keeping track with what we're doing, we're gonna finally finish the trilogy of imagination and end off with Terry Gilliam's The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. Yeah, stay tuned for that, and we'll be ready to talk about that next time. Right. Until then,
Jacques.
Stay tuned.
Thank you for listening to Additional Crew Film Review. If you like this content, please check out our other episodes, and otherwise, please subscribe, give us a good rating. All these things help us to be seen a little bit more. We do have a letterboxed name is Additional Crew Film Review.